The new Sony A7R VI is here, and the big question is simple. Has Sony created a camera that can replace the flagship A1 series, or is this still a specialist tool for high-resolution shooters? At first glance, the A7R VI looks familiar. Sony kept the same body style from the newer Alpha lineup, but the upgrades are more serious than they appear. There's now illuminated rear buttons, which sounds small until you're shooting in the dark and can actually find every control without using your phone as a flashlight. Sony also redesigned the battery system completely, moving away from the older Z battery to a new SA battery with higher capacity and faster charging. But the real story is inside. Sony packed a new 67-megapixel full-frame stacked sensor into the A7R VI, and that's a huge move. Not just because of the resolution, but because stacked sensors are usually reserved for speed-focused flagships. This means the A7R VI can shoot up to 30 frames per second while delivering giant files with extreme crop flexibility. That sounds like an A1 killer on paper, but there's a catch. Readout speed matters, and despite the stacked design, this sensor still isn't fast enough to match the A1 Mark II. Fast action like baseball swings or racing subjects still show rolling shutter with the electronic shutter. It's much improved compared to the A7R V, but it's not in the same league as Sony's flagship sports camera. If you're shooting professional sports where distortion cannot happen, the A1 still wins. Where the A7R VI shines is versatility. It gives you massive detail for landscapes, portraits, studio work, wildlife, and even casual sports. If you crop aggressively, this thing becomes almost like carrying multiple focal lengths in one file. That 67MP sensor gives a lot of freedom, especially for wildlife photographers who can't always fill the frame. Autofocus is also excellent. Sony borrowed its newest AI processing, and tracking is incredibly reliable. Human subjects, animals, birds, vehicles, it locks fast and stays locked. It feels more refined than previous R-series bodies and closer to Sony's top-end performance cameras. Video is strong too, but it's clearly secondary. You get 8K recording and oversampled 4K, but this isn't built to be the ultimate hybrid. It's a stills-first camera that happens to shoot very capable video. That distinction matters. At $4,500, it enters serious territory. And that raises the question, do you actually need 67 megapixels? Because if you don't, the A7V gives a much better all-round value for most creators. So no, the A7R VI isn't an A1 killer. But it might be the most powerful high-resolution camera Sony has ever made. For photographers who want extreme detail without giving up modern speed, it hits a very interesting middle ground.